Welcome, everyone, for the first EARTHwise Conversations community call for this year. We started this initiative already last year to really give the EARTHwise community, the Elowyn community, our partner communities, give ourselves that opportunity once a month together in meaningful conversations, a time to spend together to strengthen our commitments, our love, our compassion, our resolve, our actions for the world, because we're going through enormous changes, and so is the planet. So my name is Anneloes Smitsman, and I'm the CEO and founder of EARTHwise, and there's also many beautiful people here from our team and stewards, and it is an hour that we are together. Sometimes it goes a little bit over. Through this hour together, give space to each of you to share also your insights, to share your stories from around the world. Before we dive more into this hour, I would like us as a community, let us just take a moment together, first of all, in solidarity and support for all of those who are impacted right now by these incredible fires that are still raging out of control in LA and California, but also with compassion. There are other, of course, areas in the world also impacted by climate change. But for now, I just want to ask if let us just take a moment to really gather as a circle and take a moment to just send our thoughts, send our love, and send our support, not just to people, but also the wildlife, also all the animals, the birds, the insects, and nature herself, for all who are impacted by these fires. So I'm just going to ask us all to just do this for 1 minute, that we are there with them together, sending our love, because love is the greatest power in the world that transcends all of our differences. So what I'd like to do before we go more into what we're doing at EARTHwise and sharing more news about the game, just want to open it up here to the community, to see if there is anyone here who has been impacted by the fires, or would just very briefly like to share how you feel with what's going on.
Yeah, just to also to pull in on what you were, or to build on what you were saying, Anneloes, and I think it's so appropriate that we take this time to presence. This is so at the heart of what EARTHwise is all about, and how the Elowyn game also is seeking to create this greater sensibility, not just in terms of the compassion for those who are suffering, but the deeper levels of empathy for all the beings. And you brought in and talked about nature writ large, about the animals and the plants, which are going through all of the devastation that the fires on the northern Pacific Rim, as I like to think of it, of the Americas, but also in Syria, where there are just similar types of fires going on right now, and devastation in people, and in other parts of the world as well, in the Amazon and other places. So this is something really where we can be with this time with wholeheartedness, full compassion and empathy, and also with the sacred celebration of life that brings forward the positive, brings forward that which sprouts anew, even in these times of difficulty. So thank you for starting with this, and knowing that this isn't just this time of difficulty and solemnity and struggle. We're also talking about a game here, which is, it's as the Lego motto is, about serious play. So this is about the play of life, and it is a play. It's not in jest, but it is something that we can also have as a sacred celebration. And I think my sense is this is a time when everything must be done in sacred celebration. So thank you for calling that in.
Thank you for bringing this beautiful wisdom here. That is so vital. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. And I'd love to hear from more people.
Yeah, thank
Please.
you.
Yes.
My two daughters are there in Los Angeles, and grandchildren too. And we who live in the Blue Ridge Mountains have just gone through a huge flood.
Yes.
And so what I'm aware of is how neighbors come to each other's aid, and how our connections, when we have invested in bonds, in human bonds, in the bonds of love, how powerful that is during times of crisis. So much so that both my daughters wanted me to get in touch with our mutual friends in the Los Angeles area. And then one bought the other's, air purifiers, knowing that she has a problem with asthma. So you could just sense how alive that web of connection is during something that one of my friends described as an apocalyptic moment in his life where he lives. So, and it was true here also in these mountains when the hurricane dropped so much water, and the rivers rose to such an extent that a part of the town that we relate to, the city we relate to, Asheville, where the artists were, was underwater, So the aftermath of it is devastating. And also there are things that happen amongst us as strangers that make us much more like brothers and sisters, people who care deeply for each other and for the natural world. So I just wanted you to know that just being Sasha and Nina's father,
Yes.
I am
Bring them here. Yes.
aware of so many miracles that happen under the radar and during the chaos.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And behind you, I see also this web of life. So it's even visually, you are reminding us of this web of life and how we are a living web of life together and support each other through that. Yeah, one of my friends, Vinit, he has a retreat center in Asheville. So he was also describing, you may actually know each other. He was describing how it was for him as well and he said there's such a community support that came forth. And and that is what heals, right? That's what pulls us through in all of those times. So thank you for sharing that. That's
Thank you.
Thank you, Anneloes. This is my first meeting, but I follow a lot of the other offerings you have. And hello, Alexander. Thank you for inviting me. And good to see some other people from cross-pollination with other groups. Vincent Brown, I live in Northern California on the coast, and I do environmental restoration, multiple species habitat restoration. I have friends in LA and kind of witnessing all that. And here over the last decade, most of the area that I live in has burned. Part of my niece and her family got burned out, moved, got burned out again. So there's a lot of devastation, and my heart really goes out, and to all the pain and suffering in the world. And so I just want to say that for me, what I'm trying to do is just focus on what I can do, and so my love is the environment and the animals and the critters. And thank you so much for bringing them up. And so, yeah, it's just for me, it's like, what can I do? What's my gift? What's my offering? What can I focus on? Because I can't solve all the problems in the world, but I can do what I can do. And so I just want to acknowledge you and everybody that's doing this work, and, may peace prevail.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
And acknowledging you too for everything that you are doing. Thank you so much. And bringing in that wisdom of doing what you can, and do that with all your love and all your heart. Because I think that's really important, because if we make it too big, then all that ends, we end up in a cycle of stress. And from stress, we can't be supportive to anyone. So I think that wisdom that you just brought in is really beautiful. Thank you so much. Great. Janice, please share.
Hello, everyone. I just came off an extraordinary Humanity Rising with an Indian gentleman who was talking about it, Dr. George King, who was a contactee expert on, you know who he is, yes, and the eminent nature of our ascending Earth right now, and our becoming consciously part of a global global cosmic universe. And, they say all politics is local. It all begins with us. So I was going to echo what Vincent said. So you were right on target. I'm always talking about what I think the new Earth is recognizing that we compare to any ecosystem, that each no part's too big, no part's too small, but each part plays a part. And so it's really time for each one of us to really look inside and find out what our authentic self, what our gift is, because, like Mother Teresa said, or the starfish story, well, you can't help everyone, but it did save that person, and it did save that starfish. And those are cumulative efforts. When a billion people say, I don't make a difference, nothing happens. But when a billion people do one small thing, a lot happens. And so, things are happening on a community level. And from an esoteric point of view, fire burns and it cleanses, and new growth comes out of fire. And I don't say that lightly, because I know the extraordinary pain and suffering that those who came to this planet to martyr themselves to teach us, those who are the four-legged, two-legged, winged beings, that we all come in for a reason. So there's some karmic reason that people sacrifice themselves to be part of this fire. I think, it's part of a divine plan. I think the animals too, sometimes it takes something major as a wake-up call. And so we also have the water that cleanses, and it's teaching us all. We here know our connection to nature, and that we can't fix nature. We're always trying to, we can be an environmentalist and we'll fix this or fix that. But the systems thinking of, we are part of nature, and we listen to water, and we listen to fire, and we listen to all the elements. And I think that's what we have to pray for in this time, that people recognize their interconnectedness, and that even what we do in our hearts for healing,
Yes,
has a ripple. So that's all I'll say.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. And for giving a deeper trust in this time of enormous change is what you're offering here, what I feel. Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, the thing is, there are, of course, so many people talking about why this is happening, and it's very important that we don't do this from a place, of course, of blame. We see plenty of that around, not to turning these moments of crisis into political opportunities. Plenty are doing this, but to stand in that with great humility, because there are so many factors combined. My own takeaway in these moments of crisis is that as a sustainability scientist, having worked in this area of climate change for quite some time, we already warned in 2011 in our training with schools and businesses if you cross 1.5 degrees warming, we are going to be in a fundamentally different world. It's going to be very hard in ways that we can't even foresee yet. But what we can do is get prepared as much as possible. Of course, what we have seen in the way that we as humans have been growing our societies, that we have been ignoring this. I live in Mauritius, and for example, so here we have always big cyclones. We call them cyclones here. Other areas, of course, in the US, it's hurricanes, but we have big cyclones coming over. And that means that if you want to build a house here that is built in concrete, and a third of your house is under the ground because it has to stand 200 kilometers per hour wind. And I see now already, for example, new houses where some of the biggest cyclones haven't happened for many years. So people forget what our ancestors knew, and they start to just build their houses in the way that it looks fancy and nice, and they've seen it in magazines. Yeah. So I think it's so important for all of us, wherever we are in the world, we really need to get to terms with the reality that is we have now moved in a fundamentally different world. The earth, she will balance herself also in ways that we don't know yet. There is still also a delay in climate change, meaning that when you go to 1.5 degrees warming, that accelerates other tipping points, and that can be an acceleration even towards 2 or 3 degrees. And that is not to create fear, but to get proactive, to say, okay, are the structures in which we are living right now fit for what's coming in the future? How can we create bonds of communities, networks of resilience, emergency preparedness ahead of, when this is happening? How can we practice this also as a community? I remember when I was growing up in the Netherlands, this was at the time of the Cold War. Funny enough, at school, we used to always have these bomb alarm practices. Once a month, we would actually practice, you had to dive under the table and then get ready and prepared. So we don't have, well, in some countries, we still have that happening as well. But I think the best way to deal with crisis, with uncertainty, with disasters, is to look at in the eyes, to really face it, and therefore not from blame, but from creativity, resilience, love, community, and put our strength together and seeing how can we create a livable world together, while so many of the conditions and the structures and the systems that we relied on before, that we thought, oh, it's all going to be fine, they are falling away. And this is also what EARTHwise is very much about. So EARTHwise is a platform and a community, a living collaboratory where we come together to pioneer these new systems, to become the networks of resilience, of love, of creativity, to dream into that greater future, and to dare to dream for hope as well, to dare to dream for innovation and renewal at the times when it may seem impossible. We took that commitment one notch higher when we embarked on the Elowyn Quest of Time game, because we set out with a very clear intention. We want to really create a game here that empowers younger generations, that takes on what we call the Moloch dynamics in the world. Moloch stands in game theory for the quick gains, the win-lose competition, the wanting to compete in order to dominate, to taking actions by which we undermine our collective well-being, both in the short term and the long term. That's what kind of Moloch stands for. So we said, yes, let's create a game that is a game changer, that's going to show that we can create a unitive narrative. We can put art in the card, and I'm going to guide you through that in a moment, that helps us activate these greater capacities, because that is the other thing right now, is as hard as it is wherever we are in the world, it's in those times also of great change that we have the opportunity to access abilities, potentials, talents, new qualities of ourselves and of our collective being that we may not even have known are there. Yeah? I learned this from my grandparents, funny enough, from their stories about the Second World War, when I used to ask them about how was it for them. They were farmers, and they were explaining to me that as hard as it was also a time where they discovered whole new qualities about themselves and each other that helped them grow their humanity. And this is what this call is in Elowyn. Grow your humanity, but also as we grow in your humanity, grow human technology with heart, human technology with wisdom. And this is where the AI development for the game comes in. These are what we're prototyping is what we call benevolent AI systems that are wisdom-based, that are evolving from our gameplay. That will, like the Moloch AI in the game, it will try to tempt you to battle its shadow arc, to go into win-lose, to use your cards in order to beat it. It's willing to sacrifice its own shadow arc to kind of tease you and tempt you into sacrificing the Elowyn tree of life, because then you're in its game. And for us, it's now when we are playing that, to actually play it with the consciousness of where is this happening in my own life? How am I being drawn into a right or wrong argument? Or you need to give this up in order to get that, or take a shortcut, or you can't have it all, or integrity has a price. There's all these concepts, myths, that people have developed. And it's time to put it on its head. It's time to hack them, to decode them, to demystify that, to say, no, what have we normalized on this earth? And is that natural? And let's stop that. And let's normalize compassion, normalize empathy, normalize a greater intelligence that is an integration of our human intelligence, collective intelligence, the intelligence of our planet, the intelligence of this greater web of life and the universe itself, wisdom-based intelligence. So this is our opportunity. This is when we rise to the occasion. And that's the invitation of the Elowyn game. When you're playing this with us, you're not playing just a card game. What you're doing is you are acknowledging the greater forces and challenges that are kind of can bog us down, but to say, I'm rising to it. I'm meeting them. I'm not denying it's there, but I'm changing the direction. I'm repurposing that. I'm using that power in a different way. And so, and that is then how, by playing Elowyn, we become more conscious ourselves, but we're also training through that these AI systems. So a quick update on where we are with the game development. And then I actually want to take you into the game and show you a couple of things of how you can play with this. First of all, we launched the pre-alpha or MVP, what we call minimal viable product version of Elowyn on Solstice through a beautiful celebration. If you haven't seen the recording yet or hadn't had a chance to be with us live, please watch that. It was just so heartwarming to see as a community. Then my son Manu, he's only 14 years old, but he's been really critical in this whole game development, always sharing his insights. So I asked Manu to make some more introduction videos, tutorials, to really explain the basic steps. What are the different cards? How do you use them? What do those numbers mean? How do I put it on the board? What does it mean to win this game? All of that. So there's an introduction video from Manu on the website. And I've put the link also in the email that you would have all received, but let me just bring that up here again. So if you go here, you find all these tutorials. So I really recommend going through the introduction video, especially to figure that out. We are starting soon on the alpha development. So in this phase of the development, it is single player. You're playing against an AI called Moloch. In the next phase of development, we are adding another AI, that is the Elowyn Tree of Life AI. And that AI, as we progress further and further in the game development, is going to be guiding players as well, so that it can give feedback, that you understand, do you know why you just lost time right now? Do you know why the tree is suffering from that action? Or do you know why it's actually healing what you're doing now? How can you apply that strategy also in your own life? So the Elowyn Tree of Life will be an evolving tree. It kind of really a tree intelligence of the greater wholeness, representing the collective consciousness, and then eventually growing also into a stewardship intelligence. At EARTHwise, we've also been stewarding together with many of our partners, including especially Singularity Net, an initiative called a participatory framework for creating a global AGI constitution. AGI stands for artificial general intelligence, not generative, but general. So that's intelligence that surpasses human intelligence. And so the AI systems are also trained in accordance with those principles. And one of the most important premises of the AGI constitution is that our role right now as humans, with technologies that we are developing that may soon surpass our intelligence, is that we need to take a parenting approach. Usually as humans, when we don't trust something, we try to either squash it or make it so much more powerful than our competitor that we use it to dominate them, or otherwise we'll try to legislate it. Yeah? So these are all knee-jerk reactions of how we try to create security in a Moloch-dominated world. And that doesn't work. That doesn't help to create true global security. So what we're doing instead is saying, what would it mean for us to parent these new emerging intelligences? And as Alexander often reminds us, it's not an artificial intelligence, it's an augmented intelligence. And there's a beautiful video from you, Alexander, and a blog article also that Amina wrote. Maybe you can share the link in that. I really recommend everyone, to reflect on that. So before I go into the game, I just want to take a pulse check again here with the community. So any questions from anyone here? Anything you want to say? 5 minutes, and then we go into the game.
Now, I was just thinking to jump in to mention how this is at the heart of EARTHwise, and there's really nothing in all of what we're doing with EARTHwise and with the game that is trying to sell you something or trying to do something for a superficial, I don't know, some kind of marketing or sales superficial aspect. It's really being EARTHwise.
Yes.
And it is both the simplest thing and the most challenging thing I think that humans are faced with at this time. And when we take this to the game frame with Elowyn, I think it is so right for our time now, because what is reality is really a challenging thing these days, when we have so much with the AIs that are coming on. We have deep fakes, we have expressions that are both creative and also shifty, in the sense that they actually obscure and obfuscate. They create more difficulty in understanding what is real, because you see then images that are AI created and that are, okay, so wait, is this a real person, or is this a false environment? And is this somebody really saying something, or is this somebody who's been manipulated through AI to appear to be saying something? All of this is a challenging time that we live in.
Yes.
And so the Elowyn game, I think, is particularly relevant because it brings us into a game frame where we start to explore how we can work with this time and how we can be in this quest for time, really, to be able to bring things back into a grounded, earth-wise ways of being. And it's a kind of a practice opportunity, right, where we can play the game, but it really is about the game of life.
Yes.
And it's not just the game of my life as I'm going to make a living and have an employment. It's not just, it's the game of Gaia, earthwise life. And this is where you get to play and explore your own abilities, but also the dynamics of living in a VUCA world, right? This volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. And so that's for me the how it ties back into what EARTHwise is all about. Just wanted to mention that.
That's perfect. And I fully agree. And that's exactly why these deception mechanics, the win-lose, the battle dynamics, they are all in this game. So we learn how to work with those forces. Because some people may have said, but why do you do that? Why is it not just a beautiful game with only nature images? And it's like, no, we take a martial arts approach here. You have to become streetwise. You have to deal with that. And you will see there are specific cards in the game that you can play. Like, for example, the magical owl, and you play that card, or the hacker key is also another card that will help you to reveal the deception of the AI. And it will tell you then the shadow arc wants you to play offensive, or it wants you to be defensive, and whether to trust that advice or not. And these are some very basic deception mechanics we have in now. It will get more complex over time. But exactly, it's so that you, or it will try to get you to kind of, tease out more rewards, take a bigger risk, but also a bigger loss. And so to really tease, what's your motivation here? Why are you really playing here? So it's a great check with yourself as well. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for adding what it means indeed to be EARTHwise. And I see Carmen has her hand here as well, so I'm going to add you here too.
Hi, Anneloes, dear Anneloes, and everybody here. So great to be with you. I was wondering about Malu. I was wondering about, the earth that we're leaving to our young people and our future generations, and the impact that this game can have in youth and in children. And I'm wondering, particularly with artificial intelligence, how is he responding? How is your son, who's a leader and an advisor of the game, how is he responding, and what is his thinking with regard to the game and other young people like him?
Yeah, he loves it, but that, because he's so deeply involved. I think his love for the game is because he's had an opportunity to be part of the design, part of the gameplay, part of the feedback. So I think it's so much more empowering, and it's for him also new to be enjoying and playing a game that you're part of creating. And I think that's the first thing. That is also why we have launched the game already now at MVP, and we didn't wait to beta. Normally games are after beta. They're first alpha and then beta, then launch. We said, no, we don't want to do that, because we want this to be really by and for the community. So we want to make sure that we're giving input opportunities like we're doing here early on. So that is one element. But then a really funny one I noticed, and he probably doesn't even realize that, because I edit his videos. So when I'm listening to his videos and just editing it to remove anything he doesn't want, because he is narrating as he is playing. And then I noticed that he calls the shadow arc, so the female, whenever he's playing against the shadow arc, there's one female shadow arc, her name is Vandra, and he calls her a he every time. So it's like he somehow made a subconscious association that whenever he has to battle a shadow arc that is dominant or trying to fight, that it's a he. Yeah? And he says, oh, he's dealing me a tough hand right now. Oh, he's not doing so well. And I'm like, look at it, that's a she. That's not a he. Then I thought that was very. So you will see that actually when you listen to his video, you may sometimes go, why is he suddenly saying he or him or his cards when he's playing against the female Moloch? Yeah, and so that is the other thing. Yes, and. But I think the real lesson he's getting in right now, not just from the gameplay, but it is in the creation process, is when he makes these little videos. The agreement that we have is that it really is to a good standard. So he will give it to me and say, "Mama, be honest with me. Is it good or not?" And I go, "Well, I couldn't quite hear you right now. The music was so loud from the game itself. Can you hear that?" I said, okay, do you want me to edit it out for you? No, I want to do this really good. I'll go back. Or one time we had in the beginning with Aleph, was very difficult to play for those of you who've played Aleph before. He's the cosmic coder in the game. And he's like, after 8 times playing Aleph and it wasn't yet balanced out well, he goes, "Mom, can I make a video about losing?" Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. We also need to do that. He said, "I just can't win. I'm so frustrated. I've done now this video 8 times and I just can't win against this shadow arc." So maybe I should just show people how to lose. And so I think, and these are the beautiful moments, that to have those kind of conversations. What does it mean indeed if you feel, and are you losing because something is unfair, something is not right, or are you losing because you haven't understood the strategy well? And there are cards and combinations that you need to play. Like Aleph has a card called the Cosmic Serpent, and it can help you reverse time, but then you need to play an other code card with it in synergy. So if you play it on the deck just alone, it won't give you that effect. We have to time well to get an other combination card with it, and then you put it on the deck and it makes a quick time reversal. And in the game, for those of you who are new to Elowyn, the winning condition is that you need to reverse the false clock of Moloch. So there's a Moloch clock, and that Moloch clock represents the extinction timeline. And because many times when we think about winning or progress, we always think the clock moves forward. We want to go forward in time. Or we're saying here, yeah, but if you go forward in the wrong time, if you're going forward in mechanistic time, you get further stuck. So what we want to do is we want to win back time from the mechanistic systems. We want to reverse that clock, regain our time, because also in regaining time, you're no longer a slave of time. Regaining time means that we can then feel that we can choose how to allocate time, make time for family, make time to be in nature, make time to go within, to be with ourselves, make time to play. So you need to win back time, reverse that model clock. That's the first winning condition. And the second one is you need to restore the Elowyn tree of life. When you start the game, it is at what we call health points. HP is 30 and bring it to 60. Now you can also win the game by killing the shadow arc, just as in traditional battle games. But what we've done, we build in a negative consequence to it. So if you're using your cards to hit the shadow arc, and the shadow arc will hit your little guardian, it will do that. So you may go, oh, that's it, I'm hitting back. And if you reduce it to 0, it dies and you will win. However, what happens is the HP, the health points of the Elowyn tree will go down. So it teaches a lesson. You go into that gameplay, you're in Moloch. You think you're winning, but you're actually losing because you're losing the point of the game. And that means that you have been willing to sacrifice, in this case, the Elowyn tree of life, which represents for the health of the wholeness, including the shadow arc. You've been willing to sacrifice that just in order to kind of teach Moloch a lesson, not realizing now you're trapped. Now you're fallen for the trick. Yeah? And so to think that was also very new for him to think about this, that because he was used to the more traditional games, always either a shooter game or you have a direct battle, but there was always a winner and a loser. So in that introduction video, he explains beautifully in his own words that this is a win-win game because it's not about the shadow arc losing. It's about you win, the tree wins, we reverse the time, and the shadow arc of Moloch also has a right to exist there. And then when I heard him explain in his own words, he came up with that, how he calls win-lose. He said, it's an ideology. He's calling it, it's an ideology. And he says, we don't want to do that. We just want to be fair to everyone. So yeah, it's great to see where people in his generation, and there are others here too, where they take that in their own ways, and adding their own insights in that, and then look how to apply that in the world. Great. I see Simone here. Is that answering your question, Carmen? Yeah. Fantastic. Let me add Simone here with me, and then I'll. Hi.
Hello, I'm from the Netherlands.
Yes.
Very interesting talk. What you're mentioning now, how your child was his intention to have an winning game, because my partner and I 3 years ago we want to build a game and we play that gamification. Can you tell us more about intrinsic motivation or gamification? Why do you build this game?
Yes, definitely. Beautiful question. So the first intrinsic motivation for building it is to give, especially young generation, an experience of what these more game dynamics are by which we are undermining and are destroying our world. Because so many people are constantly caught up in that. And I see this also in the educational systems. I've worked for 7 years training and setting up education for sustainability programs for many schools here in Mauritius, and that went to 20,000 children or youth. And what you could see is the kind of curriculum and the way that it is set up is constantly this feeling of win-lose, constantly of this competition, constantly this battle. So it was really important to help train younger generations into systemic thinking and the systemic element here in the game is you're not just looking at one win or one loss condition. You're looking at multiple factors that you have to balance at the same time: your own health, the health of the tree, the clock, as well as the impact on the shadow arc. And that's a core element of thinking about interconnections, interdependencies that are used to train also schools and organizations in systems thinking and system dynamics trainings. But I noticed when I would draw that out in diagrams or give them little videos, it would only go so far. But now in this game, you can play it out and you can actually test, what am I doing? How am I prioritizing? How am I making choices here in this moment when I'm under pressure? So a very deep motivation for the game is training, to be able to playfully train to develop the capabilities and competencies in awareness and consciousness. So that is one. The other motivation is to be able to actually, if you're looking at the statistics, 3.6 billion people are playing video games around the world. 60% is youth. And being a mother of two teenagers, I felt deeply concerned, that most of those games are all the same battle, the same narrative that we see play out in the real world. So then we are normalizing again the narratives of disunity. We are normalizing violence. So that was the other motivation, is just saying, okay, where can I find a game that does it differently? And there are those games. I found some, there may be some beautiful playing for the planet games as well. But I noticed that when I asked my kids, why are you not playing that? They went, well, it's not so fun. So, okay, can we do this then in a way that is fun? It is engaging. It has a different narrative around it, where the artwork is also very beautiful. So to inspire that. And then the third motivation is that the game is a way of creating an ecosystem. And this is also why we have created a token around this, so that by playing the game, we want to be able, through the token, to give real life value also to the players, but creating a funding mechanism now for players and for younger generations to help fund their projects for the planet. And we often get kind of judged that, oh, is this a crypto game? And I have to explain, no, it's not like the way you think. It's not about it being a crypto game, but it's about how can we tokenize the value that we're creating as a community together and create a larger collective funding pool that we can then use to direct, to support projects that I have seen are beautiful, great missions, amazing actions, but are always missing out on funding. And where we've been as EARTHwise in the nonprofit sector for a long time, I've had to write proposals for the UNDP, the UN, the EU, and they're very complicated. So I can see many organizations, as well as really younger people, and they're looking at these criteria to get funding through these mainstream mechanisms, they give up. It's very discouraging. Sometimes it takes many months to write a proposal, only then not to get it. And so there must be another way. There's so much money in this world. Can we, through the game, create a collaborative platform where we can start to attract some of that, but then have the community wisdom intelligence aided by benevolent artificial intelligence to then help redistribute those resources where it matters the most. So that is the third kind of architectural motivation behind that, almost using the game as a pilot for co-creating this planetary civilization, which is why we also have the EARTHwise Constitution for planetary civilization.
Great. So you can build then your own community and your own supportive community.
That's where we want to go with it. Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Great.
And that you can then also put the proposal up on a collaborative platform with blockchain technology. So we're in the early days of building that up. And that you can then together vote on those proposals, access that as funding, and then really support, the real life actions where it matters, especially in times when, right now a lot of the other structures are falling away. So that it's like building a bridge when you're seeing these other structures.
I will talk to my partner. He's a designer, and he was with a philosopher before COVID. He wants to build a game, so I was introduced. He also read your book, Because I was telling that you are talking about this game. So I'm talking about the game, and we shall look at the game, how it works.
Please. Yes.
Wow, great.
And
Thank
then,
you.
yes, and then let's have a call with you with him
Yeah,
and learn more about what you were building as well.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's wonderful. Thank you so much. So through the link that I've shared in the chat, when you go to that page, you just have the play button at many places, and all you have to do is just press that button. Here I have already made my account. This wallet is later for the EARTH tokens. These will be a crypto wallet, but if you don't want to use that, you never need it. And it is free to play, so you don't need to spend money to start playing Elowyn. So what we're going to be doing now is logging in.
Mentioned that there's a question from Musonda in the chat exactly about the EY token. So let me mention it to you. He says, currently playing the game. It's amazing, and I have 500 plus EY tokens. When does the EY token? It just moved. Somebody posted something else. When does the EY token launch? That was the question.
Wonderful question. If you have already 500 tokens, you've done amazingly well. And you've played many different matches. So the question is, when will we launch the EARTH token? We are waiting from the launch pads, and we are waiting to see from the market conditions of what's happening in crypto right now to pick up. So as soon as the market conditions are increasing, we had hoped to already launch it last year, but the advice that we received from everyone is wait. It is starting to pick up, it's starting to get better, but it's really important that there's a strong community behind it, what we call immediately that we have utility for the token, that we have a larger gamer user base. So please let people know that they can play Elowyn. And then as soon as those conditions pick up, so hopefully in the coming months, then we'll be able to launch the token, and then we'll also work out the convergence between the EARTH tokens as an in-game currency that you've already earned, and how much of that is going to convert into your crypto wallet. And then you will be able to change those via decentralized exchanges into coins like USDT or USDC or Ethereum. Yeah? And so this is why we are having these agreements with the launch pads where we're helping to launch the token. So there's already 4 big launch pads that really love the project and have given their support for that. So yeah, great question. But just is it also make a screenshot of the tokens that you've had, because what we have said as well in the warning, in the disclaimer, is because we are still at MVP, there are things that can happen with the server reset. So for sometimes it may happen that accounts get lost. So if you feel that you've been playing and that suddenly something has happened to your account and it's gone back to zero, just keep a record of it. And we really want to be fair, yeah, so we can then always make sure that that you're getting what you've earned. And then be honest about that too, because I know you can Photoshop numbers. So yeah, let's do the honesty both ways. So the first way to start with Elowyn is that you go into the library. And this is where we have, at this stage, we have 5 different guardians that you play. And that is because you're in single player mode. When we released it alpha, that's another 5 to 6 months development. There'll be multiplayer mode, and you can even play a shadow arc. So you can also discover what those deception mechanics are as a shadow arc. And that's when you play teams against teams, or you can continue to play against the AI as a guardian. Each of these different guardians of Elowyn are modeled after the 5 future archetypes that we also have described in our EARTHwise Constitution for planetary civilization. They are also part of our Books of the Future Humans trilogy, but they are here kind of gamified in their version. It's like we have the wholeness coder in the EARTHwise Constitution. That is here the cosmic coder. We have the future creative, which is here Kairos. It's the future wizard. Here we have the evolutionary alchemist instead of the evolutionary catalyst. So this is Shakti. We have Gabriel, there's the pattern weaver, it's the same wording. And we have Eureka as the story speller instead of the new paradigm story speller, because she will also dispel the myths of Moloch. And each of these guardians, they have 4 unique cards. At this stage of the game, we're going to be giving them 4 more. So we'll have 8 in total for the next round. And so I'm just going to share with you some. So you see there's 4 unique cards now for each guardian. And you also have per guardian, they have what they call your hero power. And that's what you'll see later in the board itself. It's a little icon that is next to your guardian. And that gives special powers for special strategies. Like Eureka can create different effects to the cards that you play, be it a shield, be it enhance it extra with extra health. For example, Kairos, the future visit. He has a very, very powerful time reversal power. When you play it, it sets back the clock more quickly. Shakti, which was the one with the orange hair, she has healing powers. You can direct her power to the tree or to your other cards, and she helps heal this. So each of them have different powers. And so this is, for example, for Eureka, that's the magic owl. And that's especially a card that helps end reverse time. So when you're seeing a -1 or a -2 here, that means it's a good thing, because that means the clock is being reset by that number. You're winning back an hour. So -1 is the clock reverses with an hour. And so, for example, here, this one, the magic owl helps to also see and reveal deception, as well as winning back time. And this is, so if you're thinking about how to use this as strategies also in your own life. Now, for example, here we one of her superpowers is also the comedy charm, a power of comedy. And so with this one, for example, what you're actually seeing here, this funny creature, that is one of the shadow arcs that has been hit by her comedy charm and is now, he can't do much violence anymore. But when you play that card, what happens is that if Moloch is playing a very powerful or an aggressive card, you charm that what you call minion into your deck. So now instead of it being part of the shadow arc, it comes to you. And then when you go and you're making a deck, then you can, in total, you make 30 cards in a deck, and it will just tell you when it is full. But you'll see here all of these different numbers as well. And if you looked at that video from Manu, he'll explain to you in great detail, because we're a bit out of time now, what all of those numbers mean and how you manage those. But quickly, that is the amount of mana, is how much you need in your mana tray in order to play that card. And you get every round another mana crystal. This is then your health value. And the other one is what we call the attack value, how much damage that card can cost. And so there are each of those cards different strategies here. For example, if you're playing the tiger, it is in a stealth mode, so it can't be attacked directly. The turtle is especially interesting as a life lesson. So the turtle reverses time, which is what we want to see, also when Moloch plays it. But when it gets killed, the time that you just reversed gets added back to the clock. So as a life lesson, as a strategy, you have to keep that turtle alive and be very careful, because sometimes in life we think, oh, I'm making ground, but then we're giving it up, we're sacrificing it, and before we know it, we have a major setback. So this one, the Wicked Joker, is one that copies the rules of your next card, of one of your favorite cards. So they all have, so with Sophia, you can heal also the trees, and you can heal any other cards. With the Time Ranger, you can win back time again. So there's all kinds of different strategies and powers and abilities of the cards and the combination, which are also described on that landing page. I would really recommend that you take a little bit of time to look at those different strategies. Now, the idea is then, when you're playing the game, that you can think about what would this mean for me in real life. So I'm going to give you a very quick example. I won't be finishing the game because we are already at time, but I just want to show you how you can work with this, because I think it will bring things alive. So say, for example, that let's just take the first one. We're playing Aleph, the Cosmic Coder, and we start the game. I have put the music of the game off now so that you can hear me better. And now Aleph will be playing against Vandra. Vandra can be very, very deceptive. shadow arc, and she will do that by giving, lots of false information as well that you have to see through. When you get dealt the first round, you've always been given 4 cards, but now you have to see that the mana that it's costing is not too much, because you only have 1 little mana crystal. So what we're going to do is we're putting the high mana cards away right now. So I'm saying I want new cards for those, and we'll see. This is randomly how you're being dealt those cards. Now here, for example, here we have, as a good example to start with, we have a hacker key. And the hacker key helps to reveal deception in our life. So sometimes when I have a challenging day ahead and I have negotiations to make and I need to see how am I going to do with deception, I may say, okay, if I'm being dealt a hacker key here straight away, so I can then visualize, I need such a hacker key in real life. So say, for example, I'm now in a negotiation and I don't know if I can trust that. I may visualize that ability of that hacker key now and say, may the hacker key, may that ability, what it represents in life, help me to see if there's any deception at play here that I need to be aware of. Yeah. Now here, now I'm playing Dakas. Dakas, as the great gardener here, he helps me to increase the health. And so I can also see, okay, where is the gas in my own life? Making sure it's something very practical. For example, do I need to make sure I've had a healthy breakfast? Am I looking after my body well? So there are all these different strategies that you can be applying, or sometimes this is this is the devourer. He's like a little monster. He actually eats time. And, sometimes maybe I need to be like a devourer. We need to roar. We need to stand for our principles. We need to really be true to our values. With Aleph, we can play code cards. So that's, Aleph is also gender fluid. So now I've pressed the hero power of Aleph and I'm getting another code card. So here, this one is the card. Okay, next round. I can play it. You need to have enough mana to play it. So the Cosmic Hologram, for example, is a card whereby if you play it and you direct it to any of the cards of the Shadow Arc. Let's see if we have enough here. Okay, so if I now say I direct it now on the Devourer, you will find that the Devourer now got part of my deck, because as the hologram, it mimics the code. It helps you to, as the power of a hologram, to bring the code over to your side. So in the sake of time, I am going to end this game now. When you stop the game early on and you don't complete it, you will lose it. But that is okay. So just really, I just want to pause here, but this is the way that I work with it. So there may be times when I know that I may have a big day ahead and there's decisions I have to make and priorities to make. And I may first, for example, be losing the game. I may not be very clear-minded. I may not be using my strategies in the right way and right combinations. And then I go, okay, let's do this again. And now really pay attention. And what if I take this step and then that step and that step? And as I practice that in my training round here, then I can apply that also in real life situations. So this is how I like to work with it myself. And I recommend for you to really try that out. To really, it's like putting your mind in this win-win, collective thriving, higher level thinking and strategy. And then seeing what shifts for you in your life and how can because every card has a code, every card has a symbolism. Every card has been uniquely created. So study also what are the different hidden codes in those cards and what do they represent as abilities for ourselves, and how can we now apply those abilities to help the transformation of our lives and of our world. So let me pause here because I am aware of time. Is that just want to give another 5 minutes for anyone to respond before we complete.
What I wrote there in the chat is, my sense is really Elowyn is a kind of a tool. It's reflective, introspective, and meditative. Like you're saying, preparing for a day, you can really engage with this and kind of settle and connect. But at the same time as being this introspective, meditative kind of engagement, it also engages you with the VUCA dynamics, those volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous dynamics of the world at large. And by engaging you with that, helping you tune and settle and find your own patterning that attunes with these dynamics that are pretty wild, I think it really serves as a kind of a tuning fork, it helps us human well by learning how to tune in with the dynamics at play and not get swept aside by them, not fall into the deception dynamics, etc. So for me, Elowyn really is a tuning device that helps us tune into the world.
I love that. Okay, then I think we are complete. So go and play, share the feedback. We'll be starting soon also with pilots for future leaders. We have a wonderful program coming up with Living Cities Earth, our partner. They have an amazing program of the Future Leaders program. All of those future leaders, they are going to be youth. They're going to be playing the game as well. And as they're playing, they're going to go through the training sessions. We're starting pilots with schools as well. You can do it with your own organization, with your teams. If you have ways of playing with that, or you want to combine it with different training sessions, just reach out to me. The possibilities are endless. So, and we see each other again next EARTHwise Conversations community call next second Tuesday of the month. Goodbye, everyone.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for being with us.